Every morning, we wake up, look in the mirror, and brush our teeth. Now, what do we think about during that early morning self-reflection? We might think about the past, an odd moment that happened the other day, or maybe it's an anniversary of a generational where were you when moment that changed the course of history. JFK's assassination, 9/11, the week of the pandemic lockdown. Maybe it's something that happened millions of years ago, like that time the comet hit and killed all the dinosaurs. We might think about the future, an upcoming deadline, or the next big seasonal holiday like spring break or Thanksgiving, or 30, 50 years down the line to retirement, or maybe billions of years from now to when the sun explodes and destroys the earth. Rarely do we think about the present moment, counting the number of brush strokes, concentrating on breathing properly. Most moments seem unremarkable from one to the next. And yet other times, moments occur that define our lives and shift our perspective on either a personal, a collective, or global reality. Now, we're familiar with a shout fading into the valley, or a rock hitting the surface of the water and ripples occurring, or even the butterfly flapping its wings and creating a hurricane halfway across the globe. Moments and memories are points in time that continue to ripple across our lives as well. But unlike the butterfly flapping, or the rock dropping, or the shout fading, that we will relive those moments every time we think about them. All of a sudden, you're transported to that time and place. So, what does that all mean? I mean, I'll check my script and I'll tell you. Somehow, the present moment is caused by events of the past, and then emerges from the future. And at the same time, fuses back to the past again, which then creates a whole new reality as we move into the future. This chain reaction has been ongoing for 13.8 billion years, since the dawn of time, when the Big Bang occurred, which is best described by scientists as a pre-physics God knows what. Now, that whole moment spawned a chain of events that turned into this moment right now. My name is Tom Sherman. I've spent the past decade researching the science of time, calendars, and measurement systems, during which I discovered the 5th season of the year and invented a new calendar system that divides time evenly, precisely, accurately, and logically for the first time in the history of time. Nikola Tesla once said, "If you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, vibrations, and frequency." Now, we could break down our current reality into those parts. You and I are, at our cores, lumps of energy. And we're sustained from the calories of our last meal. Now, energy inevitably generates vibrations, which take the form of waves. So the light waves emitted from the spotlight are reflecting off of me and into your eyes. The sound waves from my voice reverberate through the speakers and into your ears. And those are just 2 out of many inputs that, when filtered through your senses, creates your perception of reality that then gets stored inside your brain. The greater the energy, the greater the vibrational wave that gets created. A comet slamming into the ocean, creating mile-high waves, might cause mass extinctions, while a pebble hitting the surface of a still pond with a satisfying bloop might create perfect concentric circles and cause a moment of inner peace and tranquility. Frequency adds the element of time into the equation, which is one of the most interesting yet least understood parts. You know, if a comet hit the Earth every day or every year, it would render our planet uninhabitable. And yet, if it happens once every 100,000 years, it allows the opportunity for new growth and new life to evolve. The moments and memories that are in our mind, when we access them, the frequency by which we remember them drives our lives. It could be catastrophic moments, like forgetting the words of your big speech. Or like the time Coach Hooper came in on the wrestling team as we were drinking whiskey following our state wrestling tournament. That moment led to my expulsion from high school, me getting a GED, and then having to restart my journey to college and a career on Wall Street from scratch. I've relived and replayed that moment thousands of times over the year as I've been brushing my teeth. Scouring it for what I could have done differently in the past, or using it as motivation to overcome my failures in the future. But it doesn't always have to be a catastrophic moment that drives our lives. Small, insignificant ones can have just as much impact. A few years later, I was in the business school at the College of William&Mary during what would later become known as the Great Financial Crisis and Great Recession. One morning during my 8 a.m. bonds class, the professor walked in and said, "In this chapter, we're going to learn why we'll never see negative interest rates in the market in theory. Although in reality, there are negative interest rates at the moment, but we'll just learn this chapter anyways and it'll all sort itself out." Now that small offhand joke stuck in my mind over the next few years as I was brushing my teeth. It was irritating because it was a moment we should have ripped up the textbook, rewritten it, rather than carry on like nothing was wrong. It was so aggravating, I eventually decided to start searching for deeper truths buried in geology courses. And then by the time my college career ended, I had decided to forego the job on Wall Street and instead become a rogue scientist and inventor, which eventually turned that annoying grain of time into one of my greatest pearls. I started keeping a notebook with ideas and research, one of which was time, specifically the history, science, and engineering behind our current calendar system, the Gregorian calendar. Now, I think we can all agree that the Gregorian calendar is massively flawed. Starting a new month midweek is like if we started a new day mid-hour. How long is a month? No one knows. Is it 30 days? Is it 31 days? Well, sometimes it's 28 days, unless it's a year when it's 29 days. Time is divided unevenly. There aren't 52 weeks in a year. There's 52 weeks in one day each year, which creates this slow cycling of time where today, next year is tomorrow. Unless the year before was a leap year, then it's 2 days from now. Days and dates of a year only repeat on a 6-year, 11-year, 11-year cycle, which is why many of us are familiar with our birth dates, but not many of us know what day of the week we were actually born on, because it's constantly changing from one year to the next. Leap day is a necessary mechanism, but the only reason it's in February is because that's the most obvious place to put it. Right? Like, oh, where do we put the extra day? Oh, I know, in the 28-day month. But then that destroys the 1 month of the year that's actually built out of a full set of weeks. It's absolute madness. Unlike my bonds professor, I wanted to figure out why the system was broken and how to fix it. So, a few years into my research, I had realized a core fact that if there are 365 days in a year, we can only divide that time evenly using its two base factors, 5 and 73. That's it. Any other number trying to divide time any other way ends up with lopsided units and remainders. But that didn't really mean much to me because 5 and 73 are both odd numbers. They're prime. They're hard to work with. So I kind of forgot about it and carried on with my life until one day I overdrafted my bank account. And then the financial industry inadvertently created another node in my life that changed its course and gave me my Eureka Moment. Which, in hindsight, makes a lot of sense because, as they say, time is money. So the bank told me I had 3 days to get my account out of withdrawn status. To my surprise, on Monday, when I showed up with cash, they told me that Saturday they counted as a business day because they were open until noon. It was the last straw. I went home, I took the calendar off my wall, and I started labeling days from 1 to 73, starting on the shortest day of the year, the winter solstice. The first day of the year went from the first period went from December 21st until March 3rd, which is a reasonable winter. The next went from March 4th until May 15th, which overlaps nicely with spring and ends near that unofficial Memorial Day start of summer. But then the exact middle day of the middle period of the year landed on the summer solstice. And suddenly it all clicked, where time in Earth's annual orbit actually makes perfect sense if we step back and view it through its own natural rhythms, rather than trying to force the antiquated views of a 15th century pope onto it. That moment became the fuel to my fire for the next few years as I dissected the calendar and rebuilt a new one from scratch. Eventually, I had created a system that had divided time evenly, was anchored in time, it was reusable, it freed its users from the illogical madness of the Gregorian calendar and allowed them to take control of their time rather than be at the whim of an ancient broken system. So we can have a calendar where all the months are the same amount of days. We can have a calendar where weeks are able to be divided into even parts. We can have a calendar where people can plan, track, analyze their time with a degree of precision and accuracy that was never before possible if we're willing to shift our perspective of reality. So tomorrow morning, as you're brushing your teeth and reflecting about your past triumphs or failures, or looking into the future and planning your goals and dreams, remember that you are at your core, a lump of energy that is constantly creating vibrations in the present moment that can bring about change in your world. And by tuning your actions and thoughts to a series of frequencies through a new calendar system, time can be on your side. Thank you.